Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside Now. We're going to talk Georgia Championship Wrestling. What towns did they run? How often did they run them? Well, we're going to start right now. Monday nights. Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated was the promoter. And I believe, Rodney, if I'm not mistaken, it was Charlie Harbin was the promoter.
Yes, he was. That was in Augusta, Georgia.
I got to ask this question because I was thinking about this all day today. Did Charlie Harbin get a percentage of Augusta, or was he just paid a payoff?
I would assume he was under the same, as Dad was the promoter of Gainesville, I would assume he was getting the same percentage that the other promoters were getting, just as he
was
got.
Was it 12%?
10. Dad was getting 10, so I'm assuming that he would possibly get 10 as well, which if you think about it, he was the promoter of Rome, and he was a promoter of Augusta, so he was racking up every
Even
week.
though he had to leave early in the morning to get there. You know,
Yes.
he's a very slow person. Charlie Harbin was. But Augusta, Georgia ran at the Bell Auditorium. Jack, I don't know. I think we've talked about this before. Did you ever get to go to the Bell Auditorium in Augusta?
No, I never did get to go.
That building wasn't no different, really, than the Atlanta City Auditorium. Probably was the exact same ideal as far as the building went. I think it was built the same exact way. And it had such a great atmosphere in Augusta. What we thought about Augusta, though, is Terry Taylor came there one time. And I mean, he was over like there was nobody in that. And Rodney don't like Terry Taylor, but this is a true story. The people went nuts when he came out, didn't they?
Yes.
And we asked, why? Why is it? Then we found out there was a crossover from Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling over to there, and people were watching Terry Taylor on that TV show, and he was over. I don't know why they didn't do more of the crossover people there. That should have showed you that they needed to do that very badly in Augusta.
They could have, but at the same token, the people from Georgia were seeing in Greenville. I think that was where the TV was coming out of, that people were watching. So, and most of the wrestlers did exchange back and forth. Superstar was there. Occasionally we had, of course, Blackjack Mulligan. I don't think he ever made it to Augusta, but yeah, it was tremendous. And that crowd, and this for a Monday night, that crowd was on fire. It was electric every time you went there. And it was a smaller, it wasn't quite as big as the Atlanta City Auditorium, but it was, like I said, it was a great atmosphere, not a bad seat in the entire place. Just awesome.
All right. Was this in Augusta, Georgia, or was this in Atlanta where the Superstar was wrestling? He had finished his match. I don't know who he had beat. And the ring announcer, and I can't remember who the ring announcer was, but the ring announcer said, coming next week, you have an opponent. And if you look up to the rafters, we're going to show you who your opponent is. And they dropped this big poster of Mr. Wrestling 2, and it was just the mask. Was this in Atlanta, or was this done in Augusta, Georgia?
I remember that in Columbus.
Was that in Columbus? Well, they might have done it everywhere. I just remember it being done, and the people went nuts when they saw it was a black background with the Wrestling 2 outline deal too. It was tremendous. It was. I still remember this day the reaction that it got for that. That's how over Wrestling 2 was. I don't know if Wrestling 2 was gone for a while. I'm not for sure, but they made a big deal out of them being there. But it was Augusta. Bell Auditorium every Monday night. It was Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. It was their town. They made the money off that town. And after a while, when the Bell Auditorium was closed down, I guess it was closed down because I think it's still there now. I think there's a Bell Auditorium there now. But the Richmond County Civic Center had wrestling. Never had the same atmosphere.
No.
Never drew what it drew back in. It may have drawn, but there was 10,000 seats in there, and it was still drawing 3,200 or 4,000, whatever it was, and that was empty when you went to the Richmond County Civic Center. So that's just the way it was. Tuesdays, Macon, Georgia. Now, this was not Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. This was Fred Ward Promotions. They paid Georgia Championship Wrestling the booking fee, probably was 10%, 12%, and they got all the proceeds of Macon. Jack, did you ever make it to Macon, Georgia? And I think it was always at the Coliseum. It might have been. Yeah, I believe it was always at the Macon Coliseum. Did you ever make it to there?
No, I never made it to Macon.
They had some big old rats there that would mess you up too. Things would run around in there. I never seen Macon draw. We went there many times and we never saw it draw. Now I'm pretty sure it did at some point. But didn't they at one point maybe run at a skating ring in Macon, Georgia?
Yeah, I remember hearing about the skating ring.
Did that? I know Albany, Georgia, they had a skating ring, but did they have a skating ring in Macon, or did they always run at the Coliseum? Rodney?
The Coliseum is the only place I remember them running in, and there was also an auditorium. They probably would have been better off at, but there might have been some kind of deal that the Coliseum made. Because there is a Macon City Auditorium, which reminds you a lot of Bell Auditorium, but they always went to the Coliseum. And you're right, it was too far away. It was a 10,000 seat arena, and you were all when we went there, we sat way far away from the ring. It wasn't the same atmosphere as you would have in Columbus or in Atlanta or Augusta.
Plus, we had to run away from the big rodents that was there. You had to watch yourself the whole show. Is that Macon Coliseum still there?
Yes, it is.
I hope they clean that thing up. There's some big old rodents in that building. On Wednesday nights, Jack probably remembers this very well. Again, Fred Ward Promotions, Columbus, Georgia. The Municipal Auditorium, I believe, was the name of the building. Again, they paid Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated a booking fee to book it for them. And they got all the talent. They took care of all the show and the matches, except Fred Ward occasionally would go out and change the matches when the heel would win. He'd like to come out there because the people would yell at him, and then he would change it because he didn't want people mad at him. But Fred Ward, Columbus, Georgia, Jack, I'm going to let you talk about that because you went there many times. Columbus, Georgia, Municipal Auditorium.
Yeah, great atmosphere. And I found out later he would also change cards up a little bit by bringing in some guys that normally weren't on the show. I know I got to see Ricky Fields there just because he decided to bring him in, give him a chance. And but yeah, just man, it was just great wrestling. It was my introduction. I mean, I had gone to, we called them, of course, outlaw shows back then. I had been to a lot of outlaw shows, been involved. But this was my first big time wrestling show. And I guess if I had gone to a WWF show or an AWA show, I probably would have not developed the passion that I did. But they were perfect to me. I mean, everything that you saw on TV, they delivered in that arena. You never, ever walked out of there thinking you didn't get your money's worth.
Yeah, it was tremendous atmosphere. We always, when the Columbus, the wrestlers came out of two different sections of the building, and we always sat in the risers that rised up right there next to the babyface dressing room. And we'll never forget that somebody asked Tony Atlas, says, "Hey, show me a muscle," and he did this with his finger. Just remember that happening.
And I always sat in the balcony right over the heel dressing room.
So we were probably there at the same time.
Yeah.
Love Columbus. They would run it on Wednesday nights. Sometimes it would rerun on a Sunday afternoon. That way they could bring some of the talent that was going to be in the Omni on Sunday nights to Columbus, Georgia as well. Tremendous. It did great business. It would have sellout business, packed business. How many people do y'all think the Columbus, Georgia building held?
5,000.
Yeah, I believe it was 5,000.
And they would almost do that almost every week.
Yeah, it was down if you had 3,000.
Yeah,
and that didn't happen a whole lot.
No,
usually it was pretty close to full if it wasn't full.
All right, Thursday nights. Albany, Georgia ran for many years at a skating arena, at a skating park. They lost that building and had to go to the Albany Civic Center. And again, businesses went down. But I would think, what do you think the skating? We went to the skating thing. How many people would you think? 800 people, Rodney?
Yeah, probably 1,000, if that.
And then we go to the Albany Civic Center that holds, 8,000 people, and we're still drawing 1,000 people. It just looked horrible.
Yeah, it
But
wasn't.
the
It
skating
wasn't
rink
good.
wasn't there anymore. I think they sold it or sold the land or something. But Albany, Georgia was promoted again by Fred Ward Promotions. It was a booking fee that was given to Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated to now on Thursday nights as well. Rome, Georgia, at the Memorial Gym. Tremendous wrestling place, Jack. I think you went there as well.
Yep, several times. As you would think, it was an old gym, but what an atmosphere that place had, and it was almost well when I went, it was always on fire. Just a great atmosphere.
Rodney, let's talk a little bit about Rome, Georgia. That's where we kind of cut our teeth and got to go to wrestling every Thursday night at the Rome, Georgia Memorial Auditorium. That's where we first started selling programs in Rome, Georgia. Uh, Tremendous location. We saw Wrestling 2 and Dick Slater with a probably a 10 to 12 week program there that was tremendous. We saw Stan Hansen and Tommy Rich. We saw Stan Hansen and Ole Anderson. Just so many great cards, and it was always packed. Now, how many people did that hold?
3,000.
And it would be
3,000 people. Yeah, and
the
it
only
was.
time it wasn't packed was during the Austin Idol Bear Run Rascal time. But
Yeah, by that time it was gone, and honestly, as Georgia, as the office decided that it was time to move on to Ohio, it made Georgia worse instead of making it better. There was no investment there, but at one time you could go to Rome Memorial Gym. That place was, when we say it was hot, we mean it. It was that place was hot. You would have to, when you'd go get candy bars out of the concession stand, you would have to lick them out of the wrappers. It was hot in that place. But yeah, it was truly great. We got to go through that whole summer. We got to go to Rome every Thursday night, and missed it when school started back. We hated had to stay at home. In fact, I think Dad let us go anyway on some school nights as well.
I've got to ask the question because Thursday nights also the J&J Center was ran in Athens, Georgia. They run these three towns. And I know they use a lot of local talent in Athens because I remember Snake Brown and Bill Howard. Well, I think Bill Howard might have been a part of the crew, but it was a lot of local wrestlers in every one of the towns that would wrestle the first 2 or 3 matches, and then they just gave a main event. Now, Athens was ran by Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. They're the ones that made the money off of that show. Rome, Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. They made the money off that show. They were the promoter. They were the one, and I think Charlie Harbin was there as well in Rome. Later, Freddie Miller would take over, and then I think after Freddie, I don't remember a promoter being in Rome, Georgia.
Later on, no, it was because Charlie Harbin took over for Chattanooga. He was the promoter for Chattanooga. So no, and then because eventually Rome pretty much shut down. They didn't go there often.
They redo that building, didn't they? Didn't they close that building down and redo the floors and the whole everything about it? They redone. I mean, because building was old. It was old back in the day. I think they. But Thursdays, 3 towns. One of them was Fred Ward's. The other was Georgia Championship Wrestling. And Friday nights, for years, the Atlanta City Auditorium, Jack, that was one of your favorite buildings of all time to watch professional wrestling in. Tell the people a little bit about the atmosphere because it was tremendous.
I'm telling you, I had never ever, and I love Columbus, I did, but it was still a big municipal building. There was such an intimacy to the City Auditorium in Atlanta that I've never seen anything like it before or since, honestly. And there was something about that single light over the ring and all that smoke-filled air. I know that that's not healthy for you now, but that's not the point. The thing is it just with that whole atmosphere. Plus, you had some of the very best in professional wrestling ever. There was never any better than during that era. Just nothing. And it was just magical. I mean, I don't know how any other way to say it. It was just magic.
Okay, Rodney, Atlanta City Auditorium.
Yeah, just an awesome place. In fact, the loss of the Atlanta City Auditorium changed wrestling in Atlanta forever. Never did, I don't think, ever recovered from that. But yeah, the Atlanta City Auditorium, and then once a month they would have a big show at the Omni. But the Atlanta City Auditorium was the place to be on a Friday night. And like Jack said, they brought everybody. Dusty was on the card. Bill Watts, Thunderbolt Patterson, the Ole and Gene. It was the who's who of wrestling. Dick Slater, and every Friday night that place would be packed. There would be people sitting on the stage in Atlanta City Auditorium. It was great, absolutely great.
Saturday mornings, they would get up early, and television at the WTCG would later become WTBS Studios on Saturday morning, followed by, well, by the way, that was great as well. That television, the people were hot at that television. And, I always liked when they would say, we need a rope or tree to hang the referee.
Yes.
And
we were right there. We were right there chanting it right along with them.
Especially when our father Ronnie West was in the referee.
That's right.
Fired up time, all these things, just so many things.
And think about that Atlanta TV and the crowd there. You would think that it would be the same in other places, but it is not. That Atlanta crowd was rabid wrestling fans in that studio like no other. Memphis had a great crowd as well, but you didn't have the response that they did at studios in Atlanta for whatever reason, and nowhere else did either, for that matter. Even in the Carolinas, they did not have the same response as those people in Atlanta. It was just a different group. They were really, really into it, and it was amazing when they would run down the card for Friday night in Atlanta. And by the time they got to the main event, the people were responding to every single match. In fact, they probably should have left the sound on in the studio when they was running down the card, because it was a tremendous amount of response, especially that one. I think it was Georgia Heavyweight Championship match, the Superstar defending against Dick Slater. That place went nuts. It did. It was great.
And the thing about the TV station, I thought the original studio, the WTCG studios, which would later become WTBS, but I always liked that studio for some reason better than I liked the WTBS studios that would eventually go to Techwood Drive, I believe. I believe Richard Hood saying it was West Peachtree Street was the original studio. I just thought that had a better atmosphere than when they got over to the Techwood Drive one. But still, the fans were there. They were there. When Roddy Piper and Bob Armstrong get into it in Georgia Championship Wrestling Television, the people go nuts. And you just go back and watch the show. All you have to do is go back and watch Georgia Championship Wrestling. Yes. And this is the 80s stuff that you're getting to see. You didn't see the 70s stuff. These people were just wild in that crowd at the there. Well, then when they leave Atlanta, they would make their way to Carrollton, Georgia. And Columbus, Georgia, not Carrollton, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, for television for Fred Ward. Jack, I don't know. You said you never went to the TV.
No, I did. I just didn't get to go every week. I would go at least one time a month, sometimes twice.
Because it did a Saturday afternoon. Maybe, what was it, about 2 o'clock?
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
2 o'clock.
Well, 2 o'clock Alabama time.
So 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they would do the show, and a great atmosphere in that building as well. That I think it was called the Fred Ward Sports Arena.
Sports Arena.
Yeah, yes. Front Street, I believe it was.
Tremendous wrestling place. Loved that place. Loved that atmosphere. Always loved the TV there. Always loved Giancarlo. I patterned my whole ring announcing style and everything I ever done over Giancarlo. I loved him. He was so good. I gotta go. I go back a little bit to Columbus, Georgia. There was no better feeling or that sound when Jim Carlisle would go, "Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fred Ward Promotions. Proudly presents Championship Wrestling." And he just had this voice that was just tremendous, and I just remember that just vividly. It's a good memory for me.
And when he would walk to the arena on Wednesday nights, when he would come out, and we knew the show was fixing to go, and everybody was cheering him because they knew he was fixing to turn us on.
That's right. It was so good.
He
But
was
then
class. He was a very classy announcer. Just
yeah,
one of the
I
best. One of the best.
loved it. He he don't get it now. He is one of the people that does not give nobody gives him any credit for being one of the greatest announcers of all time because he was. Jim Carlo was because a lot of people, if you wasn't in Columbus, you didn't know who he was, but he was tremendous. Jim Carlo was.
Yes, and he actually came to Atlanta, and he would do the commentary from the sports arena at one time. When we first got the TV in Chattanooga, he was actually the first one that did the commentary.
Just but then they do the TV. Then some of the wrestlers would head to Griffin, Georgia, the old Sports Palace. I think eventually became the Civic Center, I believe. They may still call it the Sports Palace. Or they would go to Carrollton, Georgia at the VFW Fairgrounds. And back then it was the old VFW Fairgrounds, not the one that's sitting there now. There was an old building there. Tremendous. It did very good until Bruiser Brody and Kevin Sullivan, people like that, wrestled there. And business kind of dipped a little bit, but we used to go there and use it. But we didn't really go too much to there. We went mostly to Griffin, and then eventually Chattanooga, Tennessee would start running at the Memorial Auditorium, and that's where we would head. We always go to Chattanooga.
It was great in
by
Carrollton.
the way,
it was great in Carrollton because they had a TV set up at in the Fairgrounds Arena there, and you could watch the Saturday morning that we went to in the morning. They would be playing it on the TV there in Carrollton. And then by the time the bell rings, by the time it went off, it was time for the bell to ring. It was ready for wrestling. It's good.
Tremendous. This is tremendous. By the way, television that was done in Atlanta was for Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. TV done in Columbus, Georgia for Fred Ward Promotions. They paid for all that. The night show, Griffin and Carrollton was Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. Now, Griffin, Georgia could have been for a while Doug Smith. I don't know. He was some associated with. I don't know if he paid the talent or he was just a local promoter. They paid like Charlie Harbin. I'm not for sure.
Yeah, he had the Mid-South Auditorium in Griffin.
Yes, because and it did very well as well. Griffin, Georgia was a good town as well. And then on Sundays, occasionally the Omni in Atlanta would run on Sundays. And then every Sunday night, Marietta, Georgia, Cobb County Civic Center, promoted by Georgia Championship Wrestling Incorporated. Tremendous atmosphere. Jack, did you ever go to Marietta?
No, I never did.
Tremendous place, tremendous building. Though, if you were trying to sell any merchandise, you were in trouble because they try to charge you $35, $40 even back then per person selling. I never understood that one, but tremendous atmosphere. Me and Rodney got to go there a lot on Sundays.
Great pizza.
Yes, great pizza, great atmosphere. Marietta Cobb County Civic Center on Sunday night.
And it was many of the people that went to the Atlanta show. So they were all there and they were rabid wrestling fans. Forgot her name. They called her Ringside Rosie on the WSB when they did the story about the show, but I forgot her name. She actually was a ticket sales person, I think, at the Omni.
So later married
Gloria. Her name was Gloria. Now I forgot her last name though. Her name was Gloria.
And eventually we married Red. So and Red was the guy that sold programs and delivered the ring like he delivered like a pizza or something. I actually set up and took down the wrestling ring in a lot of the towns, especially spot shows. Let's go right now and let's see what the insiders got to say, and then we'll towns and arenas ran by Georgia Championship Wrestling offices. Yes.
We also left out was a live production in Macon, Georgia. I believe it was done on a Wednesdays. After Macon on a Tuesday night.
Yes. Yeah, I did forget about that. And I think Jim Carlisle also handled the commentary for that.
Jim Carlisle and Don Kent, I believe was his name. It was local there in Macon, did the commentary.
This is why, even as an old man, I am so thankful for YouTube. I got to see all this Georgia, Memphis, Florida, California, Kansas City, etc. wrestling I never got to see growing up in the Northeast. And then some great wrestling, by the way, and all those places. Michael Barr said that took my basics at AIT at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Augusta was a great city. It was a tremendous wrestling city, and by the way, years later, it would become a very good circus city as well.
I was only in Fort Gordon one time, and they cut my knee open and did terrible things to me while I was in the Army.
The Atlanta City Auditorium was made for professional wrestling. I will agree with that. I think all three of us will agree with that statement from Richard Hood. Michael Barr, part of my AITs and MLS Augusta wrestling had many places all over Georgia. The whole state was great for wrestling. Yes, that's no doubt. Michael, the headquarters for WCW was in Atlanta. Yeah, at the CNN Center. Tifton, Georgia. Now they did run. Tifton, Georgia did run occasionally. Porterdale, Georgia, ran a lot. Freddie Miller was the actual promoter for that one. Freddie Miller did promote a lot of the spot shows that they would run, but this would be later on in the 80s. It didn't run too much in the 70s. It was mostly when the 80s come along, and Griffin, there was no building in Griffin. The Rome, Georgia building was being done something too, so they took that and put that on Thursdays. They would put, and I don't remember Albany running it every Thursday in the 80s, but it could have. I don't remember. Michael Barr said Columbus was another great town to have matches. Straight up 431 from Dothan, Alabama. Waycross, Georgia. Yes, Waycross, Georgia had some great matches. And plus Valdosta, Georgia, at the Mathis Civic Center. We talked about that. The superstar, Bill Eadie, never showed up there. It was always Kurt Von Hess as the superstar. Many times too. I don't know why he never showed up there. How well do I remember Rome, Georgia? That place, one of the hottest places with some great wrestlers. It was. Let's see, Michael Barr, Brenton Rodney. Your dad was well known all over the state of Georgia. You know, he was there for almost 11 years in Atlanta. And you know what? That was his favorite place. He would tell you Georgia Championship Wrestling was his favorite place to ever. He enjoyed his other stays, but Georgia was. I guess he was more proud of the time he spent in Georgia than anything. Carrollton, Georgia was a great town. Yes, it was. Marietta was a great town as well. There was all the towns in Georgia was pretty good. Savannah, Georgia was run by, for whatever reason, they did take it over. Jim Crockett Promotions took it over. Hometown to Bullet Bob, Marietta, Georgia. Richard, all of my Army training was several military bases in Georgia. So he could watch wrestling.
Made your round.
Richard Hood said that the old WTCG studios was at 1018 West Peachtree Street. Went to that studio many times and enjoyed it. Didn't go there as much as we went to the Techwood Drive one. I love that studio. WTBS was called the Superstation. Yes. And he did say it was 1050 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30303. I'm not for sure if that's I just remember them coming through the zip code. I don't know if that's true or not. Yes, it's true. I heard Thunderbolt use that line back in '68 when he worked in Detroit. So he did say he was the man. So Austin Arnold stole that from Thunderbolt Patterson.
There's a lot of people that stole stuff from Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yes, they did. They didn't really send him a check, didn't they? Richard Hood. From there, they moved to Center Stage Theater. I just for some reason never liked that atmosphere there. I don't know. There was just something there that I just didn't like. I didn't go. Did y'all ever go to the Center Stage? Either one of y'all? I never went to it either. WLWC was the Columbus station.
I know WRBL was the station that carried wrestling there.
Okay.
Was that Michael? Was that channel? I think it was Channel 3, wasn't it?
Channel 3 was WRBL because Jim Carlisle was also an announcer there.
You know, Michael Barr asked this question. He said, if Ron West was around, what stories you could tell? Yes, he would enjoy it, but we'd have to have 5-hour shows because he would just keep on going on.
And explicit content warning.
But man, he could, yeah, the stories he could have told would have been incredible. And we were going to do that. That was in the plans. He was going to retire from the circus. That was going to be his last year. He was going to do some things with the circus. He just wasn't going to go up north. He told him he wasn't going to go up to New York anymore. But and he was going to come back, and we were going to do some things like that. But it was not in the cards. But one reason we decided to do this, nobody was talking about the old days, and there's still place. We still need to talk about what's going on in professional wrestling today. I think we wouldn't be, pro wrestling inside and out if we didn't talk about what was going on. And there's a lot of things I found out today that we need to talk about Monday. But Paul Jones was the promoter. I forgot about Paul Jones being the promoter in Atlanta. He was the promoter in Atlanta only, though, right?
I believe that's right.
He was not the promoter in Marietta.
No. That
I remember. So, but I don't think Charlie Harbin was either. There was some other guy that they named as the promoter there for a period. I don't even remember the guy's name. I'd have to go back and look at some old stuff. But Michael Barr, by the Brent, who made the frame pro wrestling poster. Yeah, I did that myself. You can hardly see it because one of the lights are hitting it. But yeah, so it's giving you a little bit of a. But yes, I made that myself. They used to wrestle in Ponce de Leon Park in Atlanta, ballpark in Atlanta. Was that a huge ballpark? I'm wondering, like, how many people did that hold? Also, the Lakewood Fairgrounds, but didn't Ann Gunkel at one time started running that instead of Atlanta. So I don't remember them running it after this, like 75. If they ran it, I don't remember it being on any of the cards that I saw. I wish I got to see the shows at the Omni, yes. And tremendous shows at the Omni. Now, they did not have, I didn't think the atmosphere was that great in the Omni. For some reason, it's something that was lacking there. Gunkel Promotions ran shows at the Lakewood Fairgrounds. I thought that what they did. And I want to thank you so much, right, Jack? It was WRBL. Yes, it was Channel 3. Thanks. All right, anything we want to talk about Georgia Championship Wrestling? Any lasting things?
I've got it covered for now.
Rodney?
Yep.
You enjoyed this video? Give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page. Go one step further. Hit that notification bell. Watch the video right there below us and share this video. Let the people know about pro wrestling inside and out. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video right here on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.